For your viewing pleasure, this broadcast of the Municipal Council meeting of Alpena is made possible by the funding provided by the City of Alpena. Thank you for your generosity.
Good evening and welcome to the Alpena City Council meeting of August 5th, 2019. Call the order, please.
Hess?
Here.
Johnson?
Here.
Nielsen is excused. Noah?
Here.
Walagora?
Here. Please rise for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, any modifications to the agenda this evening? Okay, approval of the minutes for regular session of July 15th, 2019. Were there any issues or changes? Citizens appearing before council on agenda and non-agenda items are allowed 5 minutes each to address your concerns. This is the only time during tonight's meeting that you're allowed to address council. So if you'd like to, please come to the podium and state your name and address for our records. It's over here, yeah, sorry.
Yes, my name is Ron Armstrong, 6212 Long Rapids Road. I have a building downtown that, somebody's interested in buying, but they want to buy it for a dispensary use, I guess, something like that. And according to them, there's like 50 feet or something that comes into being too close to the water park or that fountain or something.
Oh, public park? Okay.
Public park. And I just wanted to see if anything could be done about that, or because for me it's like a chance to actually sell the building,
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know. I guess I don't know on that type of stuff, so,
Okay. Since it looks like you're the only one that's going to step up to the mic today, I'll just briefly let you know where we're at with that.
Right.
The Planning Commission hasn't issued their version of the zoning to the council, so that will still go through our attorney and planner.
They said they were still in the progress.
They're in the
Setting
progress.
something up,
Yeah.
but I just, wanted.
So your building is
That
50 feet
117 North
within
Second
the,
Avenue.
so it's 50 feet within the proposed
I get
buffer?
it.
It falls
That's just
within
what
the
I've been told.
250 foot
I mean,
buffer.
Adam knows
Okay.
a lot more about that
From
than I
all
do.
From all parks.
And
Okay.
whatever we have, facilities, and it's within, if you go from nearest point of Culligan Plaza to the nearest point of the building, they intersect.
Oh, okay.
And if
Right.
any part of them intersect, then it's considered within that range and therefore cannot
Okay.
be,
Okay.
is
So
excluded.
I just see if there's anything that can be done or not, or, I guess. for
Well,
me,
you've
it's
done
gonna
it
be
so
the-
far.
it's- Even if they were to buy it, or they might not be able to buy it anyway, because they might not get their permits or whatever.
Sure.
That's, I wouldn't have a chance to sell it if they did, so.
Okay. Yeah, so what you've done is put it up to,
Right,
put it to
right,
our
right,
attention.
that's-
Sure. Yeah,
but
and
as
we'll
it
take
is,
that
but,
into consideration. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fine, thank you. And no one else? Okay. The consent agenda this evening is bills to be allowed in the amount of $421,277.29. B is the City Council reappointment of Susie Austin to the Wildlife Sanctuary Board for a 3-year term expiring 8/1/22. C is the budget amendment request to increase the budget for Parks and Recreation to carry over remaining funds for the Wildlife Sanctuary. And D is the School Liaison Program Annual True-Up.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Hess?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
And Walagora?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. No presentations. The only announcement this evening is on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, August 6th. The election will be held in the Alpena County for the library millage renewal, which includes the city. Did you have anything else to add, Don?
The millage renewal is for a quarter mill and is for 20 years. We've consolidated our voting precincts to 3 locations. It's still the same 3. We had 5 that were voting in 3 locations, so now we have still 3 locations, but only 3 precincts.
3 buildings, just 3 buildings.
Yeah.
Combine the 2 precincts and 2 of them.
Yeah.
Excellent. And now we go down to report of officers. A is the designation of the voting delegate for the annual Michigan Municipal League business meeting held September 25th, 2019, and designation of an alternate voting delegate. That was you last year, right, Greg?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going or not, so I didn't know if anybody else from the council was going to MML this year.
Does anyone plan to go to that one? I usually go to the spring one. I don't usually attend the.
Don't think I'll be able to go to that one
No.
either. Spring one.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm going either, so.
Well,
I guess you could
I'll
make
tell you-
me it, depending upon whether I go or not.
Yeah, and you weren't entirely sure last year, so why don't we do
Yeah.
the same thing as we did
That's
last year?
fine.
You be the voting member, I can be the alternate, so if Greg doesn't make it, then I can scoot down
Because
there
I
for
think
the
it's in,
meeting.
what, Detroit this
Yeah,
year.
they're very specific about what time the meeting is, so I can just go down for the
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay.
Let's do that. If-
All right, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Johnson?
Yes.
Noack?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye,
And Hess.
Yes.
Motion carried.
thank you. And next is B, Finance Director's financial report for April 1st through June 30th, 2019.
With the completion of the 4th quarter of the current fiscal year, the city should be at 100% of budget. In comparison, we have received 94.1% of revenue and 94.29% of expenditures, which results in expenditures over revenue by $54,264. This is a vast improvement from last fiscal year, as the city at this point was at 89.6% of revenue and 97.1% of expenditures, which resulted in expenditures over revenue by $790,560. As you can see, many of the departments are over 100% of budget received, which is great. Perhaps this is an indication that we budgeted conservatively in some departments. Ambulance revenue is at 76.87%. This number will increase once the accrual is entered for accounts receivable, although it doesn't appear likely that it will hit 100%. The public works revenue is only at 90.8% because we haven't received the fireworks donations yet from the chamber. This typically isn't received until later in August. The lights revenue is at negative 41% because of the reversal of that accrual that was performed last year due to the non-payment of an invoice for light pole damage. General fund expenditures are currently at 94.29%. Only one department, which is the building authority, is over budget, and this is due to an error on my part. I had budgeted an amount $600 less than what it should have been. The expenditures for the lights department is low at 76.47% because we couldn't secure a contractor to replace lights. The expenditures for Parks and Rec is low at 77.3% because this includes $55,000 that was budgeted for planning of the new bathrooms at Bayview Park, but have since learned of potential grant money for this project. Please keep in mind that these numbers are preliminary and are subject to change. Adjusting entries and accruals have not been entered yet, and of course the audit will not happen until October. I do not anticipate any significant findings by the auditors and look forward to the final numbers later this year.
Excellent. Thank you. Anna, any questions or clarity or anything?
No. Yeah, you've got this down to, it's just like everything I usually ask in every department and stuff like that is right there in front of us, so.
Just trying to put
thank
all
you.
that in the memo.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so
Yeah.
you kind of covered everything. I looked hard, I really did, so.
Good.
One thing I just want to, I don't know if you noticed or not, the cash balances under retirement, that from last year to this year, we are $2.5 million better.
I noticed.
So that was good to see.
Awesome.
Hopefully that will keep up.
Some changes.
Hopefully that'll carry through to the end of the year, because
Yeah.
then that's when we use those numbers at December 31st to figure out, our actuary figures out what our payment will be into the pension fund.
Keep it rolling.
Yeah.
All right, let's receive and file that one.
I move we receive and file.
Second.
Nowak,
Yes.
Walagora,
Aye.
Hess,
Yes.
and Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. Excuse me. Under communications and petitions, we have a letter from James Polaski in regard to the boat launch fee. We'll briefly discuss that this evening. I will read the letter into record, I guess, to start the conversation. Dear Mayor Walagora and members of the City Council, I'm writing to ask you to consider removing the boat launch fee from the launch behind the Alpena Post Office. It is not in the best interest of the residents to charge a fee for the use of this boat launch. The City of Alpena provides a lot of services for the people who live here. Most of the services are included as a benefit of living in the community. The bike path, the water park, the various parks around the community are well maintained. Thank you. And offered to the citizens for use at no charge other than through tax dollars. Why are the boaters being singled out and charged to use the boat launch when there are so many other free recreation opportunities provided by the city? I'm aware that the cost of the city is minimal to maintain the post office boat launch. What do the boat launch's fees used for? Is the maintenance expense of the boat launch so much that the city cannot absorb the costs? Are the funds being used to subsidize other programs or the boat harbor? I suspect the fees, now up to $50 annually, are being used to subsidize the boat harbor. Adding fees to boaters does not solve the problem of the harbor being a financial burden to the city. Shouldn't the city solve that problem instead of collecting money through the boat launch to subsidize the harbor? Excuse me. The city is an entity that got itself into the situation and should be the entity to get out of it, without asking for more revenue from the citizens who are using the launch. There are other ways to solve the problem. One idea would be to require that those who don't live in the city should pay for city services. Another would be to find ways to cut expenses at the harbor. Final idea would be to increase boat slip rates. It's time for accountability of the harbor. It does not make sense for the post office launch users to share the financial burden of the of the harbor. The post office launch should be free. Boaters are already charged significant fees through the fishing license, boat registrations, trailer license plates, and other taxes on items they purchase. Why add another fee for them to utilize and enjoy the natural resources? For these reasons, I respectfully encourage you to eliminate the fee for the boat launch behind the post office. Thank you for your consideration and time. And thank you for a well-written letter, Mr. Polaski. What I wanted to do this evening is discuss the topic in the letter. I might also add that I walked up and I think everyone has a copy of what looks like a petition to do the same as the letter states. So we'll take a look at that at some point. But what I'd like to do this evening is discuss this briefly, and I want to make sure that the entities that discuss and bring things like this to our attention in the first place have an opportunity to do the same. I don't want to sit and reverse something that another committee worked diligently on without their consideration of what he's asking. And I believe that Don Gilmet is our harbor master and also the chairperson of the Harbor Advisory Committee.
Elmo is the chairperson,
Elmo.
I'm the representative, city representative.
Okay, and they meet as needed, and so I would want to make sure that they're involved before we make any changes. I also talked to Greg, and as far as how, so I understand the statements made in the letter thoroughly, but we would also want to make sure that any changes, if in the event we were to change this fee at all, how it reflects the annual budget that $50 fee goes towards. So if we were to make a change, it would have to coincide with things that are already budgeted for, unless we can make up for that somewhere else, if you understand what I mean. But Just personally, I had told Mr. Polaski that he makes several good points. It brought to my attention that I really don't always know where fees are used. And so I would like at some point, Don or whoever does that, Don and Anna, both or one or the other, to make a presentation as far as where are those, what does the $50 per boater pay for? And or if that were to cease or be less, how would that be made up for? And basically, I guess, just answer the questions that are asked. I don't have too many more than what are asked in the letter. And then, of course, we could then we would determine whether we would leave it or change it, or at least be able to answer for the cost.
No, those are about the same thoughts that I had. I want to understand a little bit more, get a little bit more information internally, where everything is going, and what they're used for, and everything that you just stated. So I'm on board with that idea as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, what I also don't know, because I'm not a big lake boater, I would also like to know, we might as well just get a really good presentation as far as what are all the other available launches in the city, whether they go into the river or the bay. Are they at no charge, or are they also charged, including the harbor? Things like that, just kind of a big overview of our accessibility to the lake and river.
And if there are any other services that we charge on a basis like this or not, I'd like to know, and I'm not sure that I know, not that I can think of, but.
Yeah, I think the good question too, the one that you brought up, Mr. Mayor, and the effect on the budget going forward for this year, and when we can, because we did vote on that budget with those fees included for this year.
Yeah.
So I'd like to understand exactly the effect it would have going forward as well.
Okay.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, and the only other thing, it doesn't reflect in this letter, but it's really in the same, it's in the same topic, I guess, is I get and I've talked to Don about this, but perhaps while they're discussing this at their next meeting, they can also come maybe to some resolution as far as the parking, specifically at the post office. I've been told by several boaters that they go down and they pay the $50 to launch there, so then they launch their boat or are about to, and there's absolutely nowhere for them to park. I've seen in a couple different letters when people are requesting to use parts of the harbor or Bay View that it's significant. It specifically states in our letter sometimes that please be aware, and this is to the person renting the facility, it says, please be aware that boaters take proper priority when in the parking lot, but I don't know how that's done. I don't know how boaters get priority if they're not there first. So just perhaps something that can resolve the issue at the post office specifically, as far as boaters paying a fee and then not being able to park their vehicle and trailer there. So other than that, I don't know if you want to put a timetable on when we would like to bring that back to council, or?
Give you a couple quick statements.
Sure. Yeah, we've got some time.
I'll just chime in on that. I would say probably maybe the second meeting or so in September. It's not like it's an overly time-sensitive issue, and that way we make sure we have plenty of time to gather the information. And
Okay,
put it
yeah, I
in
would
the-
definitely want to.
Generally, obviously we'll bring the Harbor Advisory Committee, will weigh in on this. Boater parking, it isn't just an issue by the post office, it can be an issue at the boat harbor. Some of those parkings, nothing over there, but here at the boat harbor, some of those spaces are kind of, quasi-reserved for boats with trailers. You can see them, they're long. Rich and I have been wanting to do something with that parking lot, so they're not striped real well right now, but during the 4th of July, I get complaints from the boaters that are launching because they can't park their boat trailer. That's not just a problem in the city of Alpena, that's a problem at boat launches all over the place, not having enough parking because their boat launches second. Their city parking lots first, so,
Yeah.
first come, first served, like you stated. It's kind of double-edged sword with the revenues that we're talking about from those boat launches, because it's not all the city's money to begin with. So I just, real quick number, in 2018, the daily, the boat harbor and the river launch, the dailies and the seasonal passes that were sold was $11,113. Out of that $11,113, 4,000 of it went to the city. The rest of it went to our contract operators per their contract. A change that I did a couple of years ago was I made it where, and got them to agree to it, was the boat launch fees that we sell in the clerk's office is starting, because they're good until March 31st, just like a fishing license. So on April 1st, you need your new ones. And I did it intentionally because they're not open. They were in Florida, they were gone. I'm open for business. That's when I get all this, that's where we get that whole 4,000 bucks. Early on in the year, before they're open to sell them, because that launch opens up as quick as the ice is out of the river. I got guys, they go down there free. And they chisel the ice out and push it out in the rivers because they want to get out there and start fishing. And so they hurry up and get those boat launch passes. What that pays for is the cost of printing the boat launch passes and the daily envelopes. That costs the city about say $2,000 a year. Could sometimes more, sometimes less, depends on how many envelopes we have left from the year before. But before that, we just paid it ourselves, and those guys kept all the money. So that's how I managed to switch it so that we would get a little bit of those funds. None of that money from the boat launch stickers has anything to do with the boat harbor per se, as far as it not making a profit or anything like that. If anything, what it would do is help offset some of the water bills at the fish cleaning station, which run about $6,000 to $8,000 in the summer, because that thing runs, a state-of-the-art fish cleaning station. But I've spoke with Mr. Polaski several times, and I'm of the opinion, and you can of course change that opinion if you'd like, because of the fact we're already in our budget year, and the real drop-dead date of having a decision made on this is before April 1st of 2020, because everybody's already got their passes and stuff, and they're locked in for this year. I'll probably have a meeting, I think I have one set up in late October with the Harbor Advisory Committee, and that was basically going to be a planning session for looking at things we need to do all over the marina and stuff prior to the CIP. So I really, wasn't going to spend a lot of time on it until then, and then lay out. The Harbor Advisory Committee knows where the money goes. They know what's needed, and all that kind of stuff. But that was kind of my time frame, and that's what I explained to Mr. Polaski, that it just isn't a real high priority today. But it's going to be on our radar screen, and I will have a very good report for this council or whoever the next council and city manager is. After the elections and stuff, we'll see what happens. But that was another reason I didn't want to do too much on it right now either, because it just everything can change. I still have to find out from the DNR. We're a grant and aid harbor. I know that we've got grant, Rich, to put when we replaced all the docks, so that was like $45,000-$50,000 a few years ago. I don't know what's all tied into that. Sometimes they'll tie in like, how are you gonna, now we help you get them, where's your money to maintain them? And I gotta double check and see if boat launch fees were tied into that or not. But that's just a brief overview of it, but we've always been thinking about it. And people have come before, and I've talked about, maybe getting a discounted rate for the, senior citizens, for an example. Harbor Advisory Committee shot that one down. They're all senior citizens too, by the way. They use the boat launch. So that's just a brief overview. If anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Can you, and I know you probably don't have the numbers off the top of your head, but when you're doing your research and stuff, can you give us a breakdown of city users, outside of city users? Are most of the users paying the $50 for the year? Are they paying the daily fees? Where the money is coming from and going?
We have that, because in the clerk's office, they actually fill out a quasi-application form.
Okay, good.
Yeah, one question I'm gonna have then too down for the future is, one of the things that I found is that some harbors don't have any boat launch fees. They do have harbor parking fees. And so they charge a seasonal pass or a daily pass for parking fees within the harbor as well. So, that's something to look into as well.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
by far, most of them charge, and many of them charge more than we do.
Okay.
Because when the thing about senior discounts came into play, we looked at the west side, southern Michigan, you know, some are higher, some were lower. We
And
looked
that-
at the anemones that were available too. There's not very many fish cleaning stations like this one, I can tell you that right now. And that seemed to be, people on the Harbor Advisory Committee have been, you know, I kept a salmon boat in the harbor in the 80s and when it was worth it, but they've been doing it since they were 16 years old. So they were instrumental in getting everything built down there. So they're much more familiar with it than I am. I know the numbers, they know, you know, the history.
And as I've told some of you, this came up on my city manager's listserv earlier this year. I think it was Grand Haven, was looking at adjusting their fees, boat launch fees. And so they were surveying basically all the other, you know, all the managers on the listserv as to what. So I have to go back into the archive of that listserv, but I can do that and give you that as well. Now, I'm not sure how many are still collecting, because I know Grand Havens, much of theirs are actually underwater, as are Muskegon's. So I don't know how usable they are right now. In fact, they had an unfortunate drowning in Muskegon Lake off of a boat launch, because a person could tell where they were and actually ended up driving their car into the lake, and they were drowned, unfortunately. So it's really impacted severely on the west side. I don't know, for some reason it seems more than on this side, on the Lake Huron side. But we can certainly get you that. And the other thing that when Don mentioned about budget, because of the period that a license or a permit is valid does not correspond to our budget year. Since we've already set the budget for this year, the funds we get in March, April, those types of things are in this year's budget. So if the council decided, no, we're gonna make it free, my recommendation would be is you don't do it until the 2021 budget, which would mean it wouldn't go into effect until March of 2021. Because then you're not affecting the budget we have now that we've already put in place, and it would then be planned for in the next budget. You would make the adjustments accordingly.
You would throw that, that's what we call business licenses, if you look in the 211 account, the marine account. And if you were to pull it up, you know, next time you get a chance, up to date, I would say that for this next fiscal year, there's probably maybe $100, $200 have been collected. And if we were to change something April 1st, or, you know, to change, that would blow that out, because that's free over there. Nobody's gonna buy a launch pass, and if they don't buy them early when they're all chomping to get out on the lake, they're gonna buy them over at the marina, and we can't touch that money. We're still stuck printing the coupons.
You mentioned earlier too about, we signed a new 3-year contract with the current provider in here. Is that written into the contract
Yeah,
itself?
that's part of
So-
the contract.
Okay, that is all part of the contract.
And
So
what are
that
there,
would-
2 years left on that?
Yes.
2 years.
Okay, all right, yep.
So it's just, you know, we'll gather all this so
Sure.
that you have everything and can take it all into account, and then whatever decision you make, certainly we'll implement.
Okay,
Yeah.
question, the contract operator, other than the selling of the passes, do they provide new services at the launch that we're talking about behind the post office?
Hey, Don.
Yeah.
They don't have to provide much there. The biggest service that has to be provided at that launch is, the city does that through DPW, because there's always so much snow accumulated in front, because we're, you know, hurrying up at night, clearing parking lots. So I'm telling you, those fishermen on me like flies. As soon as that ice is out of the river, they're chomping. So Sean will send a couple trucks and a loader over there, and they'll be there a day or two opening that back up.
That's because we dumped it there in the first place though, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
So
Yeah,
we
trying
put
to
it there,
save
then have to
money so
move
we
it.
didn't have to run it north of town.
Okay.
You know, because they got a night guy that works by himself a lot of times clearing the lot, so it's easy for him to take the loader, zip across the bridge. I mean, it's a double-edged sword.
Okay.
Other than that, we don't have to, the only other, I don't think the operators at the marina do hardly anything over there other than go get the envelopes out of the tubes.
Okay.
But DPW will adjust that dock periodically, you know, based on the
Okay.
fluctuating river.
So there are actually no costs, so except for selling and collecting the license fees, that's there's no cost at that particular location from the operator.
Right.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
Yeah.
I
All right,
did,
thank you.
I brought Thunder Bay Shores financial statement as of December 31st, 18. And it lists out exactly their revenue broke out by their seasonal dockage, transient dockage, gasoline sales, diesel sales, boat storage, boat launching, and sewage pump out. So the total revenue from all of those sources, $196,807. Their cost of sales is $212,000. So just on that, they already have a gross profit, a loss of $15,000. Then they have $46,000 of operating expenses, and so that puts them at a net loss of $61,694.
Right, they're doing a lot better lately. That used to be 6 figures every year. I used to laugh with them and say, you guys should take that money you pay the city to operate the marina, get to the casino. You might win something.
What was their launch numbers?
7,119.
7119.
That's for the seasonals, and it
Right.
was 1360 for the dailies. So
Okay.
total, because it's convoluted how they report. I went down their computer and pulled that report. They're December 31st, so there might have been a little bit trickled in after that.
They're December 31st and we're June 30th.
Right.
So right now, we have over $4,000 at the end of June 30th of 19. I
Right,
just checked the
and that would
report.
have, the bulk of that would have been collected as soon as the ice money from last year, the year before. So if you look at from, like I stated, from July 1st, there's probably not very many seasonal pass sales. Because then we don't get anything from the dailies.
Okay. Well, I think you've got, I didn't write half of that down, so I'm gonna wait for a report. I'd rather see it all at the same time. I can't keep up with all that, so.
How soon do you want, do you still want it in
Right.
September?
I
Do
don't-
you want to wait?
I don't see
Longer?
an incredible
So you-
rush on this, other than if we have the ability to perhaps change something on April 1st, 2020, I would certainly want it significantly before that, so we can know all the facts and things,
Well, if
so.
we got it by the end of the year, because even if you don't touch it for this fiscal year, which goes to obviously next June 30th, that will be sufficient time as we start, or whoever starts, the next budget, Anna and whoever else does the next budget, which they'll be getting going in January, February, that decision's been made already. So I would say if we could do that by the end of the year, have the information, you make a decision, now we're gonna leave it, or we're gonna change it, and here's how we're gonna change it, then they can plan it.
Because you're already planning on meeting in October, is that what you said?
Yeah, and, I can throw everything out to the Harbor Advisory Committee at that meeting and get all their input, and then whether you want to follow it or not, that's totally up to you, but so would like the second meeting in December be a good time to?
Yeah, first or second, and I'll do my research on what the other communities do.
Sure.
We'll put it all into a
Yeah.
report for you
That sounds reasonable.
to then take action, however you may wish to go.
I have a question about the petition. Do you want me to check these signatures? I don't know if you want to count something that comes from Ithaca? Or do you want to be city residents? There's people on here from Heron, French Road.
Well, some of these people would be buying the passes along with city residents. I mean, maybe somebody from Ithaca maybe bought a day pass, but
No, they may have bought, well, see, so part of what happens sometimes is people don't get any pass, and they just go ahead and launch their boat, and then they get caught. And then they come to me. And so that what we've done, it's a $25 parking ticket. What we've done is let them go and buy a pass, because they got a million, they're fishermen, right? I mean, they got a million excuses for why it fell on the crack of it.
fish stories.
So I say, okay, I look at, if sometimes they actually paid it, we let it go, sometimes they don't, and so we tell them, you know what, if you buy a seasonal pass, we'll make the ticket go away.
Yeah, I don't know so much about the petition here. Normally, a petition, from my perspective, puts something into action for us to consider, which we are. So I guess I'm not gonna scour over these, and I'm not gonna have staff time determine whether these people on this list actually bought permits, or where they're from, or if they even exist. there's a certain amount of value in that. But you could probably go to 1,000 people and have them sign something saying that they would like to get rid of the fee, and it's still, my determination is gonna be more on the financials and whether we can make it work to not have a fee, and whether it's realistic, and whether, I mean, a lot of other things. I mean, we're in motion, and we're gonna do this, or at least we're gonna discuss this and get a report, but, so I really don't wanna put a lot of staff time into that unless there's some specific
Okay.
requirement for it.
I don't think it's that necessary for what we gotta do.
Yeah.
I'll work with Don and we'll have something, either the first or second meeting in December
Yeah,
for you to take.
but certainly
to
keep
review
this
and
on
take
file,
Yep.
in the event that it becomes something that we need in the future, but I wouldn't
Okay, yeah, I got it.
too much verification on that. Okay, thank you, Don. Okay, so we'll basically, I guess, table that. I don't know if you need I didn't really think we need a vote to do anything. I mean, everybody's
Just
very,
No.
No,
Can have
we-
staff
we just
report
kinda
back,
receive
yeah.
and
We'd ask staff to come
we're
back.
pretty clear on
Directed
what
staff
we're doing.
to work on it.
So let's do that. Next up is unfinished business. This is the second reading of ordinance 19-447, amendment to chapter 54, offenses and miscellaneous provisions.
Consistent with council policy, this would not be read again, even though it's labeled second reading. You simply need a motion and a vote, yea or nay.
Okay, and we kind of seem to come to a consensus on all of our feelings of amending the ordinance, so what I would.
I don't agree with the consensus point you're making.
No,
but I'm
well, I
saying-
shouldn't have said
right, yeah,
consensus, I
okay.
meant we each individually gave our
Right, correct.
opinions, I'm sorry. So what I would propose is that someone make a motion to amend the ordinance, because that's what we ordinarily do, and then we'll vote on whether we do or not.
I'll make a motion to amend the ordinance to include ordinance number 19-447, section 54.6, section C, to include the language that allows state or local government agencies to provide needles or other paraphernalia to prevent the transmission of infectious agents.
I'll second.
Walagora,
Nay.
Hess,
Yes.
Johnson,
No.
and Noak.
No.
Motion denied.
Thank you. Next up is new business. A is the 2019 goose hunt. John?
Excuse me. As directed, I have gathered some information for council to make a decision regarding whether or not to hold a goose management hunt again this year. The Department of Public Works employees did a goose egg collection this spring and had higher results than last year in the number of nests disturbed and eggs collected. In 2017, there were 123 eggs collected from 24 nests and 71 eggs were collected from 13 nests last year. This year, DPW collected 126 eggs from 20 nests. Local goose populations in the city of Alpena seem to be higher this year than last in the month of June and until the middle of July. After that, however, the numbers gradually increased as the young geese became able to fly and move to town. There appears to be about 200 to 250 geese in various locations throughout the city. They're dispersed in groups of 1 to 5 dozen, and as fall approaches, they'll be joined by the early migrating geese, the molts from the surrounding areas. The success in reducing local goose populations lies in the number of local nesting geese that are removed through hunting and the egg collection. This reduces the number that will return to nest next year. Nothing will eliminate them all, nor should that be the goal, but rather keeping local goose numbers at reasonable levels to reduce the nuisance interactions between them and people. Last year, we harvested 85 geese in the 2 days hunted. We will be using the same hunters as last year and possibly a couple new responsible individuals. All hunters will sign a waiver statement as has been done in the past prior to the hunt beginning. This year, we have received permission again from the county to hunt the fairgrounds property as the geese there are causing quite a mess. in the camping areas and the bike path along the river. Hunting at the fairgrounds will take place on the interior of the track with shooting towards the river. We also plan on hunting Mishkiwas Beach as we did last year. That's subject to water levels though. We plan on holding 3 hunts in the early goose season this year. The first one would be Thursday, September 5th, followed by Thursday the 12th and Thursday the 19th. Hunts would begin again at daylight, and I'm asking this year that if allowed, they would conclude at 1 p.m. The extra hour may help bolster numbers of local geese harvested, as many returned around noon as we were picking up the decoys. Cost for conducting the hunt will be less than all hunts will be less than $1,000. Bike path gates would be closed and barricades erected to close off the hunting areas, as well as press releases and signage as has been done in the past. No campers will be allowed along the river campsites during the hunt at the fairgrounds. All of this, of course, dependent on council's direction in regard to whether or not to hold a hunt. So we are asking if council wants to authorize a goose management hunt again this year under the guidelines outlined above, or not have a hunt at all.
Yeah, thank you, Don. My opinion of goose hunts hasn't changed over the years. I think they're...
Nor has mine.
Well, wonder who this is up to.
Oh, man.
So I think it's been a fine way to keep the goose population down. And there's-
Smiles, I do.
Who counted all the geese? Who went around and counted that
I
we
did.
know?
Took about an hour.
No.
You gotta remember, I know where they hide. Actually, I did, I went, I set aside 1 hour because, they move, they'll
Oh,
fly.
yeah.
So I didn't go everywhere. I made a loop here in the soccer field, Besser's, behind the college, the beaches, the boat harbor, the river, and over by Noah.
And just, can I ask a question? Because because I'm not approving it, but you hunt on a county, at the fairgrounds, the county, do they ever give dollars to help? Because that eliminates the geese from their property and helps clean up their mess.
Do they help pay?
Mhm.
No, they just allow us down there.
Okay.
Good question.
Mhm. Just curious.
Okay. Yeah, and like I said, I know there were several, and I'm certainly not
I know.
speaking to change Cindy's mind or anybody else's. I just want people to understand where I'm coming from. That we had several years, correct me if I'm wrong, that we didn't hold a hunt and it increased the goose population significantly.
Those were the years when the fair was, instead of being held in August, it was held in September, like around Labor Day or the week after. And Thad was manager then, and that's when he just said he didn't want to do it. He didn't want, in the early season was shorter back then too. Now it runs the whole month of September, where before it was the first 2 weeks.
Okay.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
When I go for a walk, I actually get in extra steps because I walk out of the way to avoid them, because they hiss and they're mean.
They can-
Not all of them.
They usually are like that when they have their babies. You just have to know that.
Well, the other thing that I noticed, because I had asked DPW to, when we were gonna do the dog park dedication, to go in and clean that area. And then I showed up, half hour, 45 minutes ahead, and it was everywhere. On the boardwalk, up the sidewalk, and they said they had been there in the morning. So just, from morning till, 12 hours, less than, maybe 9 hours later, there was an awful lot there in that area there alone. That, I said, boy, people gotta watch where they're walking, because otherwise there's no way they're gonna avoid it. And it's just, and we did extra sweeps, I know, during this past week, or 2 weeks ago, with the managers conference, plus brown trout going on, and all the military being in, was to try to keep it as clean as possible. But I mean, we can't do that all summer, that kind of cleaning, because it's simply too labor intensive, and we got too many other things to do. But for a week, we did focus on that.
Okay.
Yep, I think everyone's familiar with where I'm at as well. I probably received a good majority majority of the complaints prior to starting the hunt, you know, with all of the extra geese, and similar to what Anna experienced, to bypass that, you know, were impossible to ride a bicycle down without a street going up your back. So those have actually, for myself, have really decreased since we started doing this, and the population is still there to view and enjoy, but at the same time, I don't feel we're over-geesed, you know, using a term. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, is it seems like it's pretty effective, you know, in controlling the population. There are other communities that are really going through this and, you know, haven't tried this as of yet, but wishing they could, because they can see the effectiveness of it. So I guess that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's the same as I did last year on it, that it's something that there's gotta be a balance, and there's only so much room in the parks and on the beaches, and I would exploring other options. I'd be interested to know now in the future, like, I don't know if there are or not, like scarecrows for geese, something that, you know, the owl decoys deter, you know, pigeons, but I don't know that there are. I mean, ideally, there'd be other ways to keep them out of the areas we want, but I don't know that.
I mean, you could look at the high school, Amber, over where you know, they have some, like, silhouette of dogs.
Right.
They use them, and they're okay, but as long as somebody's moving them all the time.
Okay.
Because, I mean, geese have only got a itty bitty little brain, but that little itty brain keeps them out of danger. So they'll get used to something real quick. I had a lady that, I can't remember the name of her outfit, but she had some border collies that were trained to keep geese, like we could hire them, her outfit. And she would come and with those dogs all summer long and keep geese out of specific areas. But what it does is it pushes them to a different, so yeah, maybe we get them away from Bayview Park, but then they just cruise over the boat harbor, or, you know, the cost of that was just kind of expensive.
Right, I can
to keep
see
that going
that,
all the time.
yeah.
And I mean, I put $1,000 as it won't cost more than that. I think we paid about $200 last year.
Yeah, it wasn't very much.
Yeah, it's not much.
And I know a couple of years ago, when we asked to restart the hunts, we were asked to look at, and we did as a group. I think we had, Joel was involved.
Billy Gould.
Yeah, and we went through and we looked at other things such as deterrents, like you're
Right.
talking about. Some of them were pretty pricey, and that was the whole thing that we were told too. They're great, but you gotta have somebody out there
Right.
moving them around all the time, because they get used to them. They're just in the same spot, and
Right.
they
And they're-
don't, and they ignore them.
And the population level could still expand out of.
Well, this year's
beyond.
bad
So-
because that high water, I mean, it was perfect breeding for them, because the DPW, even with as many as they got, they couldn't probably get to a lot of the nests
Yeah.
because they get through some trees, you know,
Yeah.
because they go where it's safe, you know,
Right.
they're not gonna go where somebody's gonna
Okay.
get them.
So
All right.
that was,
The pike must not be as plentiful in the river either from all the little ones I saw this year.
All right. Thanks for the
So-
information.
And there is a pretty extensive, I remember, so if somebody was interested, they could go back on the YouTube. There was a pretty extensive report as far, there was like 5 or 6, 8 different deterrent things and different ways to control the geese, so if they wanted to take a look at that. But otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve the hunts as suggested, and we'll go from there.
I move we approve the goose hunt as presented.
Second,
Hess,
yes.
Johnson,
no.
Nowak,
Yes.
Walagora.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Don. Next up, DPW crew leader position. Rich is on his way up.
Over the past several years, the city has strived to provide advancement opportunities for our public works employees. We've increased the number of technician 1 level employees. Before, we used to hold it at 4. Now we've opened up, I believe we have 6 technician 1 employees. We've advanced technician 3 employees to technician 2 level earlier than their time in grade. And we've also advanced some of our technician 2s up to technician 1s as well. To Continue this process, we are proposing, or I am proposing, the development of a Technician 1 Team Crew Leader classification within DPW. This would be similar in nature to the lead mechanic position created a few years back. The qualifications and skill level which will need to be met for advancement to this position, along with the responsibilities for the position, are attached. A major portion of the responsibility associated with this position are related to being responsible for the team of employees on the tasks they are assigned to, assisting the division head in planning work activities, and providing field oversight in the division head's absence. Thus, they must have a demonstrated ability to lead and coach other employees. This, with the DPW division head's confidence in their leader abilities, will allow the DPW division head to spend additional time on other DPW activities. These would include time to review street conditions for recommendations for resurfacing and repair, identifying manhole and curb repair locations, evaluating tree conditions for removal or trimming, and determine potential other activities which could be undertaken by the department, and provide additional training time for new employees or to advance existing employees. This will also provide an opportunity for existing employees to strive for and achieving a higher level of responsibility and service to the city of Alpena. As part of the Technician 1 Team Crew Leader and the responsibilities associated with it would come an increase in compensation for the employee. As a leader and similar in nature to the lead mechanic role, I would propose compensating the Technician 1 Team Crew Leader at the same level as the lead mechanic. For 2019-20 fiscal year, that would be $20 per hour. Thus, for the same time period, a Technician 1 employee is compensated at $18.94 per hour. Thus, it would cost the city $1.06 per hour for the new position. To offset this cost in the current fiscal year, we have savings created by the resignation of one of our employees, who was a Technician 2 at the time, and time of his resignation, and the hiring of a new Technician 3 as that replacement. The cost difference between Technician 2 at $18.30 and Technician 3 at $15.78 would be $2.52. And as of Friday, or 2 weeks ago, one of our Technicians 1 submitted his resignation, and Friday was his last day. So we have that position to fill, that we'll need to fill as well. With the benefits which can be derived from the development of this new position, the cost savings available to fund it, I would recommend the following. Development of a new job description classification within the Public Works Department. The new classification would be Technician 1 Team Crew Leader. Compensation level would be established at the same level as lead mechanic. Requirements for a Technician 1 to be eligible for a Technician 1 Team Crew Leader as outlined on the attached. And the responsibilities for a Technician 1 to be eligible for Technician 1 Team Crew be outlined as attached. The promotion of up to 2 Technician 1 employees to Technician 1 Team Crew Leader. Now, with that said, we may not fill this position right away. I mean, we're gonna have to go through the process, and there's gonna have to be a level of confidence that's created, or that exists with Sean, to be able to have the ability, know that person has the abilities to meet the Technician 1 Team Crew Leader. So, right now, maybe 1, possibly 0, but it gives the DPW technicians something to strive for. It gives them an advancement opportunity out there. This is something that Sean, our DPW division head, he has been requesting for a while now. I would say over a year. He's mentioned it to me that he'd like to have something as that promotion opportunity, advancement opportunity for the DPW Technician 1s to strive for. This is not Sean, an assistant to Sean. You know, that would be an administrative position. We intend to keep this in the union. Basically what it is that, you know, we have a sewer repair. You know, you're in charge of that crew to go out and do that sewer repair, get it done, get it taken care of, and then take care of this. So that he can assign them to take a crew of 3-4 people out and do those things. You know, we have, you know, some of our technician ones have acted in this capacity. They've kind of been doing it now, so we know that we have the capabilities. We just need to formulate what that is and make sure that they are the right person to become that technician one crew leader. This was, just for information purposes, I wanted the DPW crew staff to know about it. So last Wednesday afternoon, I went over, presented the concept to them, told them we were gonna be presenting it to council to basically see if council supported the position. Obviously, we've got to go back with the union. We're gonna have to develop a memorandum of understanding if approved by council, and that will be signed off by the union and city administration.
And then if that does happen, the contract being up June 30th of next year during negotiations, the intent would be that it be placed into the contract permanently. No longer, the MOU would disappear and it would become part of the contract.
Well, that was my first question because it wasn't covered in the memo, but thank you. As far as how that worked with the union.
Yep. And just one other thing, we would ask the union, just like they do for a contract, is that a vote of the union membership to vote on this. If they reject it, then fine, it doesn't happen, we're done. You know, what, you know, even though you've approved, there was a question to me, should they do it first rather than the city? I don't think it makes any difference. In some ways for this, it's probably a little better with the city, because at least it says they support the concept, and that, you know, we'll let the two parties work out the details, but basically it's all been outlined in here. Council goes along with it if you do. And so now do you want to incorporate that into a memorandum of understanding by having it vote? If this was discussion during our negotiations, it would have been part of the contract and they'd be voting on it anyways. So that's why we want to still do that process and think we probably have to.
And it was, and I guess, I wanted to make sure it was that the DPW staff knew about it when they heard about it on the radio, newspaper, and that, so that was.
Yeah. No, I don't have any issue with you of already bringing it up to them. That makes perfect sense to me. I would want to, I guess, as far as how things progress from here, so the union, because this is a union position, the memorandum of understanding being basically the same as union contract, is it gonna be more specific as far as how this person is chosen?
It'll probably get into the process.
Yes.
I would just like to see more about, more of an understanding to make sure that I know that they approve what the process is going to be, so we don't have an issue later about the selection process of who ends up in this position.
It'll basically be similar to what we have promotional process within, you know, like police, fire. I mean, you're gonna have, here's what you have to have, criteria to even apply, and then here's what they're gonna be looking at, and so forth.
They did question when I presented it to them if it was gonna be a posting over at DPW, which it would be, that we would post it as available, and then those employees that are interested would sign for the posting, and then we've gone through as we have in the past when advancing technician levels, we would interview those individual candidates for that. But yes, I agree with you. The process needs to be spelled out, and they will have to buy into that.
Just so it's not a dispute later that
Yeah,
it's,
no,
doesn't,
that- It would have to be part of that memorandum, so we'll all agree.
okay. Does anybody else have any questions about?
Well, and it was me who questioned whether they should approve it first or we
Oh.
approve it, because I don't want to get in their lane. I talked to Rich about it, I talked to Greg about it, because most everything else that comes to us, the union has it all wrapped up, and then we look at it and, ratify, decide. So for me, in my mind, this is a little bit backwards from what we normally do. I'm not opposed to this. I just wish it would have happened the other way, that the union said, yes, we agree. They worked out all the details, and then it came to us, because, and we can say, yes, we agree with this, go ahead and, have our blessing and do it, but,
Well, we can still do that, that's my opinion, because what we can do is, we've seen some of the details, certainly not all of them, as far as the selection process, I guess, would be maybe the only thing that I noticed that wasn't in. But, I mean, we could approve the proceeding with the project,
Concept of it.
proceed with the concept, and come back with the approval of the union with the final. Is that normally how, like?
I mean, it can be done that way. I guess it's slightly different, but when we created the deputy fire chief, that was a memorandum of understanding between the union and the city, which was signed by me, representing the
Right.
city. And we presented the concept, we went back and forth and we did it. So there was no council involvement at that time in that, because I think we already had dealt with creating the position within the budget or whatever. So we did those things and it worked out within the budget. I can't remember the exact details. I think we had some vacancies, and so the money, kind of like how Rich is showing here, the money all worked out initially. But then eventually we had to make the change, or we had to do something with the fire inspector, which then became the CRR, I always want to say CRR officer. So that had to be approved by council, because now we created a new position and things like that.
Okay.
So, we've done some of these, with creating new positions just without involving the council. The only reason we're doing it differently here, or asking for council support, is because we're talking about a position that is within the contract. The other was not doing that, but it affected a union position. And so we just made an understanding and then incorporated it into the contract later. This is actually creating a position.
right.
If you want it the other way, we certainly can, formulate it, go back to them, and present it to them for a vote, in essence, and if they approve it, then bring it back to you. It doesn't really matter which way you want to do it.
I have a question. It sounds like the intent is that to take a current employee and to allow current employees to apply for the position. Would it be strictly that, or if, for example, if someone was in the position and they left, would at some point it have to be offered to the public as well? Because I'm looking at, hiring laws, can you only offer something to an internal position?
Well, yeah, I think because anybody coming in new would come in at a technician 3 level.
Okay.
And we're gearing this towards technician 2 now. For a technician 1 to apply. If none of the technician 1s wanted to apply for it, and for some reason we had a technician 2, those are things we could look at.
That met the qualifications,
Right.
was ready to go to a 1, met the other qualifications.
Okay, right.
It's,
Just-
again,
it's the right
not
candidate
much
came in.
different than what we done with police fire when we're promoting from the rank and file to a command position. It's done internally. We do not go out and seek outside, or at least we haven't to date. Whether that's good or bad, that's for others to debate. But it's the process we've always used. So this would be similar to that.
I think it's a good step in any organization or a business or a city. Our people are our greatest assets, and to give opportunities for growth and to be leaders. I think that's a good thing.
And unfortunately, we've lost 4 good employees in recent past. And maybe this will entice some of them that might be thinking about leaving to stay or stick around.
And I did tell Rich, we need to figure out how to pay a lot of our employees more money, and I'm not sure where you even start that. But yes, they're worth it. You just can't afford it.
That's not
20% cut. That won't be awesome.
Are you giving them my pay? They can have it.
So I'm comfortable either way we do this. I'm comfortable if we want to create a position, which is pretty common in the private sector when you're starting to, you create a position, you offer it to the union, you get it agreed upon, and then you start the process. The business heads basically would write the job description ahead of time before any of this would be approved, so they knew. So I'm comfortable either way, though. If we want to go back to the union, then have us approved later. It doesn't matter whatever council's happy with on that, but I'm just letting you know what we do all the time. So we could do it one of two ways. We could create this position tonight, or I could actually, we could actually just direct staff to, work with the union and getting a job description done and come back to us. Whichever way you'd like.
Well, not only to work with us, but then that the rank and file would approve it before it would come back.
And they're going to, and they're gonna have, they have to have that option either way.
They'll do that anyway.
Either way.
Either way is how it's done. It's going to go before they rank and file.
So, I'm fine with it either way. I'm fine with the concept. I like it, promotes leadership. It's a good thing.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I would just like to see the union input and then bring it back to us when it's all neat and tidy.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Because there wasn't anything you were gonna do tomorrow anyhow, right?
No.
Okay.
I'm okay with that, so, because
You
I'm
need
okay either
action
way.
on something like that, or you need,
Pardon?
do you need action on something like that, or we just,
Um,
staff?
I don't know if we need formal action. I guess it's a consensus to move forward. We'll just do it.
Okay.
And then bring back once we have something.
Didn't
Assuming
want
we
all of a
have
sudden,
something.
surprise, hey,
Yeah.
we'd like to do this. Well,
That's fine.
so we
Yeah.
have to make sure council.
Yeah, we
you
can-
give
we can
staff
let 'em know
direction
that-
on where you wanna go, so.
Yeah, council has all indicated that they're, in concept, they support it, move forward with the union, and then bring it back for final approval.
Yeah.
That's good.
And that was good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
What we got?
I move we adjourn.
Second.